I welcome everybody who's here in the shul and joining us from at home. We're going to start with Shalom Aleichem on page 142. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hashem, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Bochen Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Bochen Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Teitem l'chalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
We welcome in the Sabbath by lighting the Shabbat candles. May we be blessed by the light, O Lord, and may it shine upon us all in blessing as a light of love and happiness, peace and contentment and goodwill. Amen.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
We continue with Kiddush on page 122.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kadsho b'ahavat uvratzon inkilanu zikaron l'maaseh bereshit ki yom techila lemikra'ei kodesh zecher litziad litzrayim kivanu v'akarta v'yotanu kidashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kadshecha v'yahava uvratzon inchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai Mikadesh HaShabbat. Amen.
We welcome the Shabbat with Kabbalat Shabbat with Shiru Ladonai on page 131. L'chuna Rananai, I have the wrong one. L'chuna Rananai on page 130.
L'chuna ranana, l'chuna ranana, l'chuna ranana, Adonai. L'chuna ranana, l'chuna ranana, l'chuna ranana, Adonai. Naria, Naria, Shuri, Shinu, Kalmafanav, Betoda. Naria, Naria, Shuri, Shinu, Rilo. Lichuna Ranana, Lichuna Ranana, Lichuna Ranana, Ladonai. Lichuna Ranana, Lichuna Ranana, Lichuna Ranana, Adonai.
We continue with Lecha Dodi, verses 1, 2, and 9. Before verse 9, we'll rise and turn and face the door to welcome in the Sabbath bride, and then we'll take a couple minutes afterwards to greet each other.
Page
On
one.
page 138, verses 1, 2, and 9. Zachor b'dibor echad, Ishmael Amir echad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, Chayim Tiferet v'Leila, Laila Laila Chadodi, Laila Laila Krat Kala, Laila Laila Penei Shabbat. Likrat Shabbat lechol v'nocha, ki morcha haracha, me'rosh mekedem v'nesucha, sof maseh v'makshav tila, laila laila chadodi, laila laila likrat kala, laila laila penei Shabbat, laila laila nikra b'lah. Boi v'shalom ateret halal, gam b'simcha u'salah, tochenu am zekulah, boi chala, laila laila chadodi, laila laila krat kala, laila laila penei Shabbat, laila laila remain standing for the Chatzi Kaddish.
Yitkadav, Yitkadash, Shemei Rama, Be'alema Divra Kirute, Be'amlich Malkutei, B'chayechon u'b'yomechon, u'b'chayei kol Beit Yisrael. Hagala, Bagala, u'bizman kariv, v'imeru, Amen. Yehi Shemei Rabba mevorach, le'olam u'almei almaya, Yitbarach, Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitram, v'yitramam, v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar, v'yithaleh, v'yithalal, Shemei dekudashah b'richu, leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbichata v'nechemata, damiran bi'alema, ve'imeru, Amen.
Baruch Hu is on page 264.
Adonai, Amevorach. Baruch Adonai, Amevorach, Le'olam Va'ed.
We'll read responsively at the bottom of page 266. In each age we receive and transmit Torah. At each moment we are addressed by the world. In each age we are challenged by our ancient teaching. At each moment we stand face to face with truth. In each age we add our wisdom to that which has gone before. At each moment the knowing heart is filled with wonder. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. The Shema is on page.
Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malachuto Le'olam Va'ed.
Be seated.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'kol levavecha v'kol nafshecha u'v'kol leonecha v'hayu הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאור על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי הייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני Adonai Elohechem, Asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem Elohim, ani Adonai Elohechem.
Emet ve'emunah kol zot kayam aleinu, kihu Eloheinu. We'll read responsively on the bottom of page 269. We worship the power that unites the universe, a promise of harmony for all. Yet that oneness eludes our grasp, as imperfection and evil abound. Before our eyes, there is a vision of perfection, order, and goodness. There's evil enough to break the heart, and there is good enough to exalt the soul. When will redemption come? We grant everyone what we claim for ourselves. Long ago, we escaped the tyranny of Egypt. Our people saw the power of the Most High. Learn God redeemed time and event as we celebrate the power that makes for freedom. Mi chamocha on page 270.
Mi chamocha ba'elin Adonai, mi kamocha nadar b'kodesh, no tehilot oseh feleh, no tehilot oseh feleh, malchutecha ra'uvanecha, pokei hayam lifnei Moshe, Eli anu ve'amru, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Ay, 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 die, 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 ay, die, 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 die. V'nemor ki padach Adonai et Yaakov, galu miyad chazak mimenu. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael.
Hashkivenu on page 271.
Oh, guide my steps and help me find my way. I need your shelter now. Rock me in your arms and guide my steps, and help me make this day a song of praise to you. Rock me in your arms and guide my steps. Oh, guide my steps and help me find my way. I need your shelter now. Rock me in your arms and guide my steps. Help me make this day song of praise to you. Rock me in your arms and make my steps.
Amen. We rise for Tefillah on page 273.
ומצמיח לישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיום הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני, וחיי הכל.
On page 276, Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, kadoshim b'chol yom yahaluch hasela, baruch ata Adonai ha'el hakadosh. You are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God. Please be seated. We'd say on page 279, I think, or 280. 279.
Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu Be'amecha Yisrael U'tefilatam be'ahava tikabel Tamid avodat Yisrael Yisrael Amecha Baruch Adonai HaMunagazir Shechinato Letzion Navod Letzion.
Take a moment for silent meditation, either the prayers that are in your machzor or the prayers that are in your heart. Page 285.
Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael.
The Torah service starts on page 362.
Ein kamocha Elohim Adonai, v'ein kamasecha malachutecha malchut kol olamim, umemshavtecha b'chol dor v'ador. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed, Adonai os hamoitain, Adonai livarech et amo v'shalom. Av harachamim, heitiva v'rtzoncha es Zion. Livnei Kamon Yerushalayim, ki v'cha levad batachnu, melech el ram v'nisa, Adon olayim. Ki mitzion teitzei Torah, ki mitzion teitzei Torah, u'devar Adonai Yerushalayim. Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah. Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah. Le'amo Yisrael, Eishashto. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo, Gadlu Lanoiti, Uromamo, Shemo Yachdo, Lecha Adonai Hagdula, V'hatiferet, V'hanetza, Yaakov. Ki kol b'shamayim u'va'aretz, ki vo b'shamayim u'va'aretz. Lecha Adonai, Amam Shlacha, v'yanem na'aseh lechol erosh.
Please be seated. Who's having healing? Oh, okay. Bob Sadowski has graciously agreed to be our talk reader tonight.
Baruch Hu Adonai HaMvarach. Baruch Adonai HaMvarach Li'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olam. Asher bocha bono mikol ha'amim. V'nosal lanu es Toraso. Baruch Atah Adonai Nosein HaTorah. Ele Maaseh V'nei Yisrael. Asher yotzu me'eretz Mitzrayim. Litzvosam beyad Moshe v'Acharon. Vayikhtov Moshe es Motzohehem, Lema'asehem al pi Adonai ve'ele Masa'ehem Lemotzo'ehem. V'yasu Meramzis Ba'chodesh, Harishon B'cha Misho, Oso Yom L'chodesh Harishon, Mimocharas HaPesach Yotzu V'nei Yisrael, B'yad Ramo Le'enei Kol Mitzrayim. U'Mitzrayim Mekabrim Eis Asher Hiko Adonai B'cha Kol B'cho, Uve'Elohehem Oso Adonai Shefatim. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech olam, asher natan Torah emes, v'chayei olam notah b'sokenu. Baruch atah Adonai, nosein haTorah. COVID kiss.
Yeah, COVID kiss. Tonight, we have what? Okay, thank you. We're getting coaching. We have our prayer for healing, and tonight we remember those in our congregation. Paul Millman, Nancy Hanley, Mary O. Wiggins, Dick Stone, Harriet Lipton, Hannah Stampleman, Enid Elton, Joni Kahn, Stanley Turetsky, Bob Glassman, Andy Rosenthal, Sandy Warshaw, Louis Siegel, June Foreman, Paul Wiggins, Joseph Spinelli, Harriet Katz, Samuel Phillip, Pat Ryan, Jerry Gollner, Ian Spear, Norton Blumberg, Julie Ross, Megan Kearney Bailey, Tevya Ben Frima Hinka, Miriam Siegel, Dan Zimmerman, Aaron Serkman, Tyler Grad, Karen Levine, Joanne Tobin, David Tillman, Evelyn Silberg, Jonathan Glassman, Jean C. Kircher, Shari Ben Yishai. Would anyone here like to add a name? And those of you at home, please say names out loud. Please rise for Misha Beirach.
What page?
Misha Beirach
370.
Avotenu,
Makor habracha limotenu.
may the source of strength,
who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishe Berach Imotenu, Makor habracha li'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
May they be healed in body and in spirit. I'd like to call up Aaron as Hagba and Marnie as Kalila so that we can start returning the Torah to the ark.
התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל להביא אדוני ביד משה.
כי לקח טוב לתת לכם תורתנו הטוב. את חיים היא למחזיקים בה, לתוכיה מאושה, דרכיה דרכנו נתיבותיך שלום. שירנו אדוני אליך ונשובה, חדש חדש ימינו, חדש ימינו כקדם.
Please be seated.
Dog likes it.
And I've adjusted to my height. So this week we have the privilege of having a double portion and also finishing the last chapter in the book of Bamidbar. So you could say that this is a double mitzvah. Matot, with tribes, opens with laws about vows and continues to describe the Israelites' war against the Midianites and the allocation of spoils. The tribes of Reuben and Gad request to dwell outside the land of Israel, and Moses agrees on the condition that they continue their obligation to their fellow Israelites and help conquer the land of Canaan. Maseh travels, the final portion in Bamidbar, the book of Numbers, opens with a list of the places that the Israelites have traveled in the desert. God commands the Israelites to destroy idols in the land of Israel, outlines its borders, details the laws of the cities of refuge for accidental killers, and concludes with the decision regarding the inheritance that Zelophehad's daughters achieved in last week's Parsha. Last week, Cantor Orengel's Drash taught us about female empowerment, as Zelophehad's daughters advocated for themselves, successfully arguing their right to their late father's tribal land, even though he had no male heirs. This week's portion presents two apparent setbacks to this forward progress for women's rights: a father or a husband's, depending on the woman's marital status, ability to annul her vows within 24 hours, and the requirement that Zelophehad's daughters marry within the tribe if they are to retain their inheritance. Amongst the questions that these verses raise is whether these are truly reversals, whether reversals are part of a normal spiral towards progress, or whether, as Zivan states, there is more to their achievement than it seems. Let's look first at the apparent diminishment of women's equality in being responsible for her vows. Rabbi Esther Letterman points out that Numbers chapter 30, verses 4 and 5, also addresses the responsibility of women making vows. If a woman makes a vow to Adonai or assumes an obligation while still in her father's household by reason of her youth, and her father learns of her vow or her self-imposed obligation and offers no objection, all her vows shall stand, and every self-imposed obligation shall stand. The Hebrew translated here as offers no objection is hechsheret, which can also be understood as silent or keeping quiet. In other words, by remaining silent, the father agrees to the vow. Silence implies consent. In contrast, a father must take an active step in order to annul his daughter's vows. It's human nature to let things stand. It requires real courage to speak up or to actively object to a loved family member's commitments, unless there is a strong moral or ethical reason for doing so. As an example, this very human tendency to take the path of least resistance is one of the reasons why wait times for organ donation can vary so dramatically between states. In New York, you have to actively indicate on your driver's license that you will be an organ donor, whereas in Kentucky, you have to actively opt out. The not surprisingly result, more organ donors in Kentucky than in New York. With this understanding in mind, how does this change our understanding of a woman's obligation to fulfill her own vows? In the context of the time that the Torah was written, the fact that this was even discussed is an indication of Judaism's grappling with issues of equal justice. As Rabbi J. Fred Schwab states, over 1,000 years ago, most societies didn't even raise the question. Women were considered property to be handed from father to husband. When we acknowledge the fact that a disavowal requires an active effort on the man's part, and this needs to be done within 24 hours, we can interpret these verses to imply that a woman can, in fact, be held accountable for the fulfillment of her vows, just as men are, that women have the same obligation as men to think carefully before taking a vow, as fulfillment of vows was considered sacrosanct, that at least in regard to vows, men and women have equal rights and obligations. Let's now turn to the verses about Zelophehad's daughters. Here, the heads of Manasseh's clan appeal to Moses and the elders to resolve the conflict between Adonai's promise that the allocation of land amongst the tribes is permanent and the potential loss of land if Zelophehad's daughters marry outside the tribe. On its surface, this suggests a request for Adonai to renege on the decision to allow the daughters to inherit. Moses and the elders decide the land remains the daughters' inheritance as long as they marry within the tribe. However, should they marry outside the tribe, then the land reverts to the tribe. This is a seeming reversal to the expansion of women's rights made in the earlier Pasha. Yet by focusing on the phrase, whomever is good in the daughter's eyes, which is part of the decision, we can interpret this as a step forward. Keep in mind that in the times of the Bible, marriages were arranged by the parents. Women did not have agency in deciding whether or whom to marry. In his decision, Moses gives women agency, first to decide whether to marry within the tribe or not, and second, to choose someone who is good in their eyes, making the woman, not the man, the person who has final say over her marriage partner. In Ezra Sivan's interpretation, this transforms the competition from one in which men vie with each other to obtain women as prizes to one in which men struggle to understand what the women want. With this decision, women gain, not lose, agency. This, in my view, is a fitting conclusion to the book of Bamidbar. It is our tradition to say chazak, chazak, v'nit chazek, at the end of each book of Torah. It is a way of saying you have been strong enough to come this far. Continue to be strong, for the study of Torah never ends. So join with me in saying together as a congregation, Chazak, Chazak, V'nit Chazek. Amen. We continue with Aleinu on, I have to get my new page. 586. On page 592, when I die, give what's left of me away to children and old people that wait to die. And if you feel the need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give me. I want to leave you something better than words and sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved, and if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not your mind. You can love me best by letting hands touch hands and by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die, people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. Tonight we remember the yard sites of Howard Jacobs, Sidney Medoff, Ralph Whitten, Jay Bookbinder, Herman Martin Leitner, Carrie Mintz, Victor Spivak, Gertrude Marmok, Morris Tillman, Aaron Margolis, Ann Stathis Goodman, Rose Robin, Teresa Grant, Rose Sham, Frida Farber, Charlotte Tepperman, Gerald Odense, Bella Mahler, B. Smith Hopkins, Susie Geller-Wolf, Janet Spear, Marcia Friedman, Melvin Schnapper, Tina Freed, Henry Cook, Roberta Marks Cohen, Seth Kaplan, Lillian Yedis, Peggy Solonic, Sidney Koch, Laura Alligator, Nathan Herman, Stephen Cushile, Harry Kovner, Joseph Evans, Lorna Adler, Curtis Greenwald, Leo Reich, Helen Freed, Esther Bartos, Samuel Tudelman, Joseph Fruchter, Philip Ginsberg, James Levy, and Golda Sachs. We also remember those members of our congregation who are grieving those who died within Shloshim the past 30 days. Harvey Rubin, husband of Judith of blessed memory, father of son Jamie, son and daughter-in-law Jonathan and Kathy, daughter of Elizabeth, and daughter Elizabeth, and grandfather of Zoe, Darius, and Natalia. Laszlo Sarkozy, husband of Maryland of blessed memory. Father of son and daughter-in-law Paul and Jill, and daughter Carrie of blessed memory, and grandfather of Carolyn, Sam, William, and Joseph. Janet Goldstein, wife of David, mother of Paul, Jason, Erica, and grandmother of 5 grandchildren. Miriam Cohn, mother of daughter and son-in-law Louise Cohn and David Kravitz, daughter and son-in-law Deborah F. and Oded Shmueli, grandmother of Amir, Emma, Talia, Annie, Noam, Sophie, and Jesse, and great-grandmother of Daniela, Edith, Ariel, Alexandra, Matan, Shaul, Faye Marie, and Owen Saul. Albert Sachs, husband of Irene Sachs, father of son and daughter-in-law Benjamin and Hollis, daughter and son-in-law Anne and Paul, son and daughter-in-law Paul and Carolyn, grandfather of Matthew, Sam, Benjamin, Tim, Joseph, Mimi, and great-grandfather of Ruby, Solomon, and Amelia. Would anyone here or at home like to add a name? Join me for the Mourner's Kaddish on page 598. Yikadal v'yikadash me rabbah, v'yamad divrach cheruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayechon u'v'yamechon u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'olam mizman kariv, miru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mivarach le'olam u'lamei omaya, yitbarak v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei d'kudishah b'richu, le'ela mikol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechemata, damiram b'yoma v'yimru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'mamav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel. Let us say amen. Please be seated. It doesn't look like there's anyone official here to give announcements, so I will just remind you that there is Chevra Torah tomorrow morning. I want to thank Steve, who's been an amazing accompanist, my cantors, Bob and Joel, and for all of you here and at home who've joined with us in prayer tonight, to Aaron for being Hagba, and Marnie for being Glila, and Bob for reading Torah for us. Join us in our clothing song. Adon Olam. I don't have a page.
Page 625.
Page 625.
Adon Olam Hashem Allah, B'terem kol Yitzir Nivra, B'yetz Nasar B'hefsa kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra, si, Adam Kosi, Yom Ekra, Vinatosi, Yom Ekra, Yado Avki Bruchi, Vietishan Viaira, Viaim Ruchi, Gaviati, Adonai Li, Eloi Ra, Adonai Li, Eloi Ra.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, and join us for
Join us
Kiddush.
for Kiddush.